Is this organic? All right.
All right. Greenman here with the goods. Just want to talk about how I personally am treating myself for any possible exposures to the C word. Yeah, we all, nobody's tired of hearing about that yet. But this is a paper published this year, 2020, the great year, the year of the digital asset. 7 recommendations to rescue the patients and reduce the mortality from the C word. One of the main things I've been using is elderberry extract. The use of elderberry extract should be considered in the early course of the disease. So before you get it, not, oh, you think you got it, you got a positive test, start checking. Just be preventative with this. I have been taking it for the past few months, just in case. There is evidence that elderberry breaks down the cell membrane of flu viruses. So with the C word being a flu virus, I think that gives you a pretty decent chance of faring better as far as your health goes if you are taking elderberry extract or elderberry supplements. I only use organic or non-GMO because, I want some really good high quality stuff. But long story short, the spike receptors that are used to enter cells and bind to your proteins make you sick, allow them to reproduce. Well, they are in some cases deactivated by elderberry extract. And the other thing that I'm doing is taking vitamin D, and I'll be sure to include a clip with some information why I'm taking vitamin D as well to supplement my immune system.
There's been some really interesting data looking at, like, there's in the Philippines and Indonesia. Where else? I think New Orleans as well. They've looked at patients that have died and their vitamin D levels. And basically, like in the Philippines, people that for like every standard deviation increase in vitamin D levels, serum vitamin D levels, the people had like an 8% or were 8 times less likely to have a severe form of COVID-19. And if they had, and they were 20 times less likely to have critical form of COVID-19.
Whoa.
So that was the Philippines. In the Indonesia was a really interesting study where like they measured vitamin D, and this was measured in the patients. There's been some vitamin D studies also where they're like looking at, countries that have been affected the worst, and they all like have low vitamin D, and it's like, okay, well, anyways, that's a correlation. But so is this, but it's a little stronger data. In Indonesia, patients that died, almost 100%, it was like 98 point something percent of patients that died with COVID-19 were vitamin D deficient. 4% of patients that died from COVID-19 were vitamin D sufficient, or say 4%, only 4% were vitamin D sufficient. So basically they were all vitamin D deficient, all the ones that are dying.
Whoa.
Crazy, right? And like New Orleans had some crazy
What
number.
What would be the mechanism that would cause that?
So I think all right, can we get into vitamin D?
Please do.
It's a big, I really think.
Well, because of you, I take 5,000 IUs a day.
Awesome. Right now I'm taking 5,000 IUs a day. 70% of the U.S. population has insufficient vitamin D levels, which is considered less than, blood levels less than 30 nanograms per milliliter.
And this is something that your body can generate naturally if you're exposed to the sun on a daily basis.
Yes.
That's the best way to get it.
It is. But the problem is that we don't go outside anymore. And
especially now.
Yeah,
with
especially
this
now.
lockdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now more than ever. But
and what a terrible recipe, right? Vitamin D deficiency is what makes it worse, and then you're staying inside, so you're not getting any vitamin D.
Yeah, you're becoming even more deficient.
Yeah.
Like somewhere like 28% of the U.S. population is actually deficient, like less than 20 nanograms per mil. Like that's defined deficiency. So there's a lot of people in the United States. As you mentioned, you make it from the sun, so particularly UVB radiation. There's a reason why I want to talk about this. You make it from UVB radiation exposure. Basically, it's made in the skin. And but there's certain times of the year, depending on where you live in a more northern latitude, where that UVB isn't even hitting the atmosphere, so you're not making vitamin D. Also, if you have darker skin, melanin protects you. Like the whole, people with darker skin, people from maybe Africa or India or South Asia, they're more equatorial regions. They're closer to the equator, and there's more UVB radiation throughout the year. And so as a protective mechanism to not get burned, you have melanin, which protects you, right? The problem is that melanin also blocks your ability to produce vitamin D. But if you're out in the sun all the time, in a place where you're getting UVB radiation, it's not a problem.
Well, this is the very reason why people in places like Scotland and England have such pale skin.
Exactly.
It's cloudy all the time, so your body sort of develops its own ability to absorb more vitamin
exactly.
D.
So what happens when you take what happens when you take a person from South Asia, from India, from Africa, and you put them in Sweden or in Minnesota or in the UK? a place where UVB radiation doesn't hit most of the year, and you don't give them a supplement. What happens is they become severely vitamin D deficient, severely. And what happens when you take? I mean, you can throw this on you can flip this over and say, okay, what happens when you take the guy from the UK, the Brit, and put him in Australia, like without any sunscreen or without a hat or
cancer.
they're gonna So I mean,
do you think that this could be a factor in why so many African Americans are getting hit so hard?
Yes. So here's the thing. So African Americans there's lots of all right. African Americans are in the United States. There's been studies. African Americans are severely deficient. They're 28 times more deficient in vitamin D than Caucasians.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's because they have darker skin, and and
they're not getting enough sun.
They're not getting enough sun because people stay inside more. People stay inside. It's not like the old days when we were out hunter gatherer and out in the sun all the time. We're inside all the time. We're in school. We're at work in our office in our cubicle. So the CDC, obviously there's been studies showing that African Americans are more hit, but they didn't really correct for tons of like other factors because socioeconomic status is important, other health factors, but there was a big study just released not long ago from like the National Office of Statistics in Britain or something like that. I don't know what their official name was, but they released some statistics from England and Wales, and the I don't know what the correct name to say. I mean, the blacks there basically living in England and in Wales are 4 times more likely to die of COVID-19 than whites. For other health factors, they were 2 times more likely to die. So clearly socioeconomic status and other health factors are playing a role, but there's something else unidentified. And I think it's vitamin D. I think that, the vitamin D, like I'm not saying that vitamin D is going to prevent you from getting COVID-19 or it's a treatment, although I am involved in a clinical study where we're going to be testing a very small open arm study we can talk about. But, I'm not a physician. I'm a medical doctor. I've never intubated anyone. So don't think I'm saying that. I don't want people to think I'm saying it's a treatment. It's a hypothesis that needs to be tested. And thankfully there are clinical trials, randomized control trials that are now ongoing, and there are some that are recruiting fat-soluble vitamin, and it's been shown to be 50% less bioavailable. So you have to, after you make it in your skin, it's stored in fat, and it's released when basically into the bloodstream, and then it gets converted into a hormone. This hormone regulates 5%, more than 5% of the human protein-encoded human genome. That's a lot of. It's a hormone. Like, can you imagine just walking around without testosterone? You're a man. That's a hormone. I mean, because there's a lot of people that are deficient in vitamin D. It's a steroid hormone. It gets converted into a hormone. Wow. Like, this isn't just a vitamin,
All right. I hope that was plenty informative for you all. Be aware. I suggest that you boost your immune systems. I am greatly disappointed in the public officials, all of them. I have not seen one yet. This has been going on for months. I have not seen one yet. Talk about boosting the immune system. This is a flu virus, which means you are eventually going to get this. You are going to come into contact with it. And the stability of your immune system is probably the largest factor in your ability to fight off this virus. So I just want to say, please do your best to make sure that you're healthy and your family members are healthy. Share this with your loved ones. Like and subscribe if you are so inclined. But please, do whatever you got to do to get healthy. Exercise, maybe cut back on the smoking and drinking. Do whatever you got to do because your health is important. This has been the Greenman. Get out there and grow.